Article 16 Discrepant Documents, Waiver and Notice. Article 16 deals with the procedure to be followed by the banks to handle discrepant documents. When a discrepant document is submitted, the nominated bank may ask the beneficiary to submit the corrected documents. Similarly, the issuing bank may ask the applicant to waive the discrepancies. But it is not a compulsion for any of these banks to do so, but there is a provision under UCP to do all these things, right? Let us start with Article 16A. When a nominated bank acting on its nomination, a confirming bank if any, or the issuing bank determines that a presentation does not comply, it may refuse to honor or negotiate. Here, this beneficiary submitted the documents to this nominated bank, and this nominated bank simply forwarded the documents to this issuing bank, because it is not a compulsion for this nominated bank even to check the documents if it is not a confirming bank. Now this issuing bank found these documents are not complying as per the credit. Now as per this Article 16A, this issuing bank may refuse to honor or negotiate. Here we have to note this word may, which means this is not a firm thing. Even this issuing bank may honor as well, right? But if it do so, then it is outside the purview of this UCP600. Next, Article 16B. When the issuing bank determines that the presentation does not comply, it may, in its sole judgment, approach the applicant for a waiver of discrepancies. This does not, however, extend the period mentioned in subarticle 14B. As we saw earlier, if this issuing bank found the presentation is discrepant, it is having an option to approach this applicant for the waiver of discrepancies. But it is at the sole discretion of this issuing bank to approach the applicant for a waiver, and it is not a compulsion for this issuing bank to honor even if the applicant waived the discrepancies after the request, right? Here, this issuing bank is free to choose any option. Now, this does not, however, extend the period mentioned in subarticle 14B. Means what? What is mentioned in Article 14B? 5 days available to each bank to check the documents for compliance. So, these 5 days cannot be extended for the reason an issuing bank approached the applicant for a waiver. Whatever the issuing bank want to do has to be completed within those 5 days. That is, either it should refuse to honor or it should get the discrepancies waived within the 5 days only. It cannot be extended at all, right? Next, when a nominated bank acting on its nomination, a confirming bank if any, or the issuing bank decides to refuse to honor or negotiate, it must give a single notice to that effect to the presenter. So that is, if any bank which decides not to honor or negotiate a discrepant presentation, then it must give a single notice to that effect. It cannot send multiple notices for the same. And the next one is very important. These points are talking about what the bank has to state in its notice of refusal, right? So the notice must state, it is must. So the first point is that the bank is refusing to honor or negotiate. It is inbuilt. The notice must clearly state that the bank is refusing to honor or negotiate. Next one is why it is refusing. So for that, each discrepancy in respect of which the bank refuses to honor or negotiate. Even if it is a single discrepancy, the presentation is discrepant. If it is having multiple discrepancies, then the bank must list all such discrepancies in its refusal notice, and that too in a single notice, as we saw earlier, right? Next, what the bank said, we are not honoring because of these reasons. Then what the bank is going to do with the documents, that is what mentioned in the following points. And as per UCP, the bank is having 4 options to handle the discrepant documents. First one is that the bank is holding the documents pending further instructions from the presenter. So in this case, the bank will say, see, we are holding the documents until we receive further instructions from you, that is the presenter. And here we have to note the word or, which means the bank can choose any one of these options while sending a refusal notice. It cannot choose more than one option from these 4, right? And the next option available to the bank is that the bank is holding the documents until it receives a waiver from the applicant and agrees to accept it, or receives further instructions from the presenter prior to agreeing to accept a waiver. This happens when the issuing bank sends a refusal notice to the presenter and simultaneously approaching the applicant for waiver of discrepancies. But in this case, that is the first case, the bank sent the refusal notice alone and not approach the applicant for waiver, right? So here what happens is, this issuing bank will send a refusal notice to this beneficiary and it will approach the applicant for a waiver of discrepancies as well. So in this case, it is like first come first serve basis. That is, the issuing bank will say like, we will hold the documents until we receive waiver of discrepancies from the applicant and we agree for the same, or until we receive the further instruction from the presenter. Here, if the applicant waives the discrepancies before receiving any instruction from the beneficiary and the issuing bank also agreed to the waiver, then the presenter's instruction will be having no role, and the similar thing will apply to the other case as well, right? And the third option is that the bank is returning the documents. Here, the bank is simply returning the documents to the presenter along with the refusal notice. And the fourth option is that the bank is acting in accordance with the instructions previously received from the presenter. Generally, while presenting the documents, the presenter will submit a covering letter as well. So in some cases, the presenter will mention how to treat discrepant presentations in that covering letter itself. So that is the previously received instruction, right? And in this case, the bank will act according to the instruction in that covering letter. So simply, the structure of a refusal notice will be like this. First one is we are refusing the presentation. Next one, the list of discrepancies. And the third one is any one of the above options with respect to the status of documents submitted, right? Next one is the notice required in subarticle 16C must be given by telecommunication, or if that is not possible, by other expeditious means no later than the close of the 5th banking day following the day of presentation. So the refusal notice, as we seen, has to be sent by telecommunication, that means swift message or any other modes not later than the 5th banking day of presentation. Here we have to note one thing: the refusal notice can be sent till midnight of the 5th banking day following the receipt of documents, which means it is not necessary for the bank to ensure that the presenter received the notice before the 5th banking day. Its responsibility is only to send the notice before the 5th banking day. For example, if the confirming bank sends a refusal notice to the presenting bank on the 5th day of receipt and the presenter received the notice on 6th banking day, now as per this article, confirming bank acted correctly, right? This one we have to note. The next one is a nominated bank acting on its nomination, a confirming bank if any, or the issuing bank may, after providing the notice required by subarticle 16C3A or B, return the documents to the presenter at any time. This means generally while sending a refusal notice, any bank will give a certain time frame to the applicant to communicate about its waiver of discrepancies or the presenter to notify about its further instructions. And this is the case with article 16(3)(a) and B only, because in other two cases the bank is simply returning the documents or acting based on the previously received instructions, right? So if the bank which send the notice not received any such expected response within the mentioned time frame, it can return the documents any time after the end of that time frame. The responsibility of that bank with respect to that credit will end from that point of time, right? Next one is, if an issuing bank or a confirming bank fails to act in accordance with the provisions of this article, it shall be precluded from claiming that the documents do not constitute a complying presentation. So this article talks about the rule of preclusion. As per this rule, if the bank failed to act as per the provisions of this article, it cannot claim the documents discrepant and it has to honor or negotiate as per the agreed terms. But here we have to note one important thing. When we read through this article, we might not realize we missed one thing. What is that? Let's read it again. If an issuing bank or a confirming bank fails, if an issuing bank or a confirming bank, where is nominated bank? So the nominated bank will not come under the rule of preclusion. Even if the nominated bank failed to act as per this article 16, the article 16F will not apply to that, because it is not giving any undertaking to honor or negotiate, unlike issuing bank or a confirming bank. And usually this question will come in the CDCS exam. To understand this, let us take an example. A nominated bank has received a full set of documents that it has determined to be discrepant. It has issued a refusal notice, but it is sent on the 6th banking day following the day of presentation of the documents. Despite this late sending of the refusal notice, the nominated bank is not precluded from claiming that the documents are discrepant and is under no obligation to honor or negotiate. Answer true or false? Now here the answer is true. Even though this nominated bank sent the notice on the 6th banking day following the receipt of documents, it will not come under the rule of preclusion, right? So it can claim that the documents are discrepant and it is under no obligation to honor or negotiate, right? We have to note this point very carefully. And here this article 16F will not apply, right? The next one is when an issuing bank refuses to honor or a confirming bank refuses to honor or negotiate and has given notice to that effect in accordance with this article, it shall then be entitled to claim a refund with interest of any reimbursement already made. So this happens when any of these banks made an advance reimbursement under red clause LC or green clause LC. These are all some types of LCs where the beneficiary can get advance based on the issued LC for procuring raw material for production or even to pay rent for a warehouse. While giving such advances, the bank will usually execute a recourse agreement with the beneficiary so that it can get refund of the same if it acted according to the Article 16 in case of discrepant documents are submitted, right? So this is all about Article 16 and it is an important article when it comes to CDCS exam. Make a note of it.